Well, good evening, church. I appreciate you all being here tonight. We got a great crowd, and we have a number of visitors from the various congregations that were represented on the trip, so we're especially excited that you are here tonight. You can go ahead and put that first slide up, guys. I want to begin tonight. We have several things to cover. Last year when we gave our presentation, I think we had 5 or 6 speakers, and we went until just after midnight. And so I was asked to try to keep it in a little bit shorter format tonight. So I'm going to be the only speaker tonight. But every person that you see there in mauve, or who was supposed to wear mauve, Greg, and didn't wear it, they each have their own perspective. We have 23 people that were on our team, 23 different perspectives. You're really just going to hear my perspective, the lens through which I saw things. And so I want to encourage you tonight, as you're eating pizza and munching on popsicles, find one of these guys and pull them aside and ask them for their perspective and get their input, because we each have a different story to share. I want to thank the congregation, all the congregations that were a part of this, but thank you for sending us. That was big. That was really important. That song that we just sang, it says, "Send the light, send the light." We got to have people willing to send the light, right? We also need to have people represented tonight in the maroon shirts who are willing to take the light, right? So we need people sending and we need people taking, and both are represented in this audience. And I just want to thank you guys for sending us and all the different ways that you did that, with money, with prayers, with medicine, and everything else you did. So thank you. I also want to thank our eldership for sending us and for supporting us, and they have been nothing but supportive of us and our mission efforts, not just in Honduras but elsewhere, but they have been fully behind it. Anything that I've asked for them, they have come through, and I really appreciate their leadership in missions. It's important. I also want to thank Josh Robertson, our treasurer. When you have 20 people from the area that are going on a trip, there's a lot of money that's being turned in and passed around and tracked, and a lot of other donations that come in. And I just asked Josh, I just said, take care of all the money stuff. And he did a beautiful job with that. And so I want to publicly thank him. And then I want to thank the team, because the team did awesome. They did really, really well. They represented themselves well, their families well, their church families. I think our youngest member, Tate, was 11. And our most senior member, Donna, I think she's in her probably early 60s. We'll go with that. And so we had a wide range of ages represented, a lot of different backgrounds, men and women, young and old. And they came together as a team from different congregations, and just did a beautiful job. So I want to thank the team for how they carried themselves. We had a goal at the end of last year that we... 2 years ago, I went by myself because I hadn't been in a couple years, and I wanted to check out the new place. And then last year, we had just an Eastside team, and so we asked the team last year, hey, do you want to open it up to other congregations? And it was a resounding yes. And so this year, we had representatives from Greenback and Seymour locally came together, and then also a congregation from Holly Hill, Florida, joined us. We met them in Miami. There was 3 individuals there. And so that takes us to 4 congregations. And then you add to that, we had a congregation represented by T. Bolin from Texas that donated a home. And then we had an individual from the Maryville Church of Christ who donated towards one of the projects we worked on. And so really, we went from it just being an Eastside effort to this year, 6 different congregations were represented in some way, either by attendance on the mission trip or providing financial support. And I think that's great. I think a congregation is stronger when its members come together for a cause. And I think the kingdom is stronger when different congregations of the church can come together and work on a project together. It brings us closer together, and we got to know each other really, really well on the trip. And so I think it's a great thing when other congregations are a part of what we're trying to do here. And so these are the congregations that were represented. We left on May 24th, and this passage that Tim just read, Paul, of course, is writing to the church at Ephesus, and he's writing from prison. And as I thought about Paul in this particular verse, he's in prison. It's around AD 62. This is his first time in prison in Rome. And I've never been in prison as a prisoner, but I can only imagine the things that I would want to pray about or to have people pray on my behalf. Perhaps you could ask for relief to get out of prison. That would be a pretty important thing to ask for. Or you might ask for creature comforts, because in prison you don't always get maybe the best food or the best care or whatever. It's a tough environment. So Paul could have asked for any of those things. Instead, his heart and his mind were focused on his responsibility to be an ambassador of the gospel. That's where his mind was. That's what his heart was focused on. And he wanted to share that good news boldly, clearly, and fearlessly. And so I think you could say that Paul's soul was on fire for God. And so as we were getting ready for this trip, this was our challenge to the team, to each person on the team, is we wanted to have souls that were on fire for God. We wanted to be ambassadors. We wanted to be people that were not just willing to send the light, but were willing to take the light, and to do so with courage and with boldness and with fearlessness. And so that's what we try to do. And I thought about that a little bit today, and I thought, we tend to emphasize doctrine, and I'm all for that. Our doctrine is important, and we need to emphasize it. We need to talk about it. We need to teach it, and there's a lot of false doctrine out there. But we can't just have the right doctrine, right? We can't just do things, can't limit it to just being doctrinally sound. We also need to have a passion for things. We need to have a passion for the work of the church. We need to have a passion for evangelism. And so we need to take that doctrinal soundness and we need to marry it up with people that are on fire for God and that have a passion for God and have a passion for lost souls. And if you care enough about people, you're going to want to teach them and you're going to want to go wherever people need to hear the gospel. And so that happens in our own neighborhoods here in Maryville. But it also needs to happen on foreign soil. And so we want to have that passion and that fearlessness for lost souls wherever they are, and that includes foreign mission fields. And so that was our challenge to the team as we went forth. And so let's get into kind of the trip. Last year we talked a little bit about preparations. I'm not going to cover that tonight in the interest of time, but if you're here tonight and you want to know what it takes to go on one of these trips and the paperwork and the money and all that involved, you can come talk to me, and I'll be happy to help you out with that. But we're going to get into kind of the meat of it. So let me go ahead here and through pictures introduce our team. We'll go through this kind of quickly. You know most of these people, but again, from really 4 different congregations, one being in Florida. This was Greg discovering, be careful what you order at a restaurant. That girl there on the bottom right, Tatiana, last year she buddied up with Kevin. And Kevin and Erica were this close to adopting this girl. And if the circumstances had been a little bit different with her family situation, I think they would have. They were not able to go on the trip this year. And so she basically went with Tim Haven this year. And Kevin was a little bit upset with that. But actually what was cool about this was when we were at this children's home, we got to do a FaceTime with Kevin and Erica and little Tatiana there. I think it was on Greg's phone. And so that was just really a cool moment to see them talking and communicating long distance. But she's one of the sweet girls there. And here's the cool family. The 3 people, Cynthia, Armando, and Ruben, are the 3 that you're probably not familiar with, but they're the 3 that were from Florida, from, was it Daytona, I believe, the Daytona area, but the Holly Hills congregation. So we met up with them in Miami at the airport, and that took our number from 20 to 23. All right, so let's start with day one, getting there. So we had to be at the airport here in Knoxville at 5 a.m., and we were all a little bit groggy, hadn't had our coffee yet for the most part, and so we gathered up, we got through baggage claim and all that, and this is Timmy trying to break the ice a little bit and get to know Janet on the airplane, and of course she was asleep and nothing really happened there. So we got settled in. Right off the bat on day two, we like to go to Didasco. This is the children's home that is in just on the outside of Tegucigalpa, the capital. And we have been going there since, I guess, 2011 is when Janet and I first went there. This year, I believe there's 14 children, is that right? No, 13 children. And so a little bit smaller numbers this year, and they're a little bit older. They're mostly teenagers, a few younger ones, but the dynamics changed a little bit, but they're just as sweet as ever. We had a great time with them, and here are some pictures from that visit. Let me mention that top picture there. We were able to purchase for the home at their request a microwave and 5 fans for the girls' dorms, and so we were able to deliver them, and most of that cost for the 5 fans and the microwave were paid for by that change jar out there in the lobby that you guys, you and your children have been dropping coinage into. We took that money, it was a couple $100s, I believe, but we took that money and put it towards the purchase of those fans and that microwave, and that was actually an idea that our elders had to set up that change jar to get more people involved that could help out, including our children. So that worked out really well. Some more pictures here. And the 2 girls on the right between me and Janet, this is Norma and Rosa, and we first met them in 2011 when they were 4 and 6 years old. And literally when we got off the bus, at the time she was known as Normita, but she came running up to Janet and hugged her, and it was this really sweet moment, and they kind of hung out. And now we've been going back, not every year, but frequently, and have watched them grow up, and now they are 15 and 17 years old, and it's just been great to watch their development and to be able to encourage them this year. The bag there on the left, we were able to give each of the children, the 13 that live at this home, as well as 5 members from the community. All 18 children got a gift bag that had a journal and a pen, a letter from a pen pal here at Eastside to include people that were on the trip last year that were not able to come this year. A towel, a set of pajamas, and a set of toiletries. And so we were able to give each of them a gift bag, and they really appreciated that. So we had, for the second year, we had a meal for them, and we always think about getting them pizza, and they're like, no, we get pizza a lot. We want rotisserie chicken. And so we went and got a lot of rotisserie chicken. We basically cleared out at the grocery store there all of their rotisserie chicken and prepared that meal, and they were able to line up and get their chicken, and we had a lot of leftover food for them to have at the children's home, so that was a lot of fun. And then we did our David and Goliath skit, and let me just say a word on Greg Husband. He is probably 3 feet taller than the average Honduran. And so right off the bat, when Greg appears out of the bus, they think, something crazy has happened in the universe because there's this giant of a person. And he's like a rock star there, literally, like selfies and that kind of a thing. And then when we do a David and Goliath skit and he is Goliath, well, that's just really effective. And then you have Tate playing the part of David. And we went through the story. We had a translator there that was kind of, translating the story to these children. And then at the end, of course, David, played by Tate there, takes out Goliath, kills him, and all the children were cheering. And it just brought home just a powerful story. Last year we took out Goliath with marshmallows and a sword. This year it was just a sword. But Greg's a great sport about that. The children loved it, and it really brings that Bible story home, and at the end of it, we talk a little bit about not just the details of the story, but what it means to overcome giants in your life, because these kids are up against some giants, right? They have some giant problems in their lives in a certain way. Their family situations are basically messed up in some fashion, and so we try to bring that Bible story and apply it to their lives and their situation. Day 3 was Sunday, and we went to worship at the Santa Ana Church of Christ that is on the campus that we stay at, and we had a great time fellowshipping with them. It's in Spanish, and we didn't have Erica there this year. Last year she was there telling us, what chapter they were on and whispering kind of what was happening in the sermon, and we didn't have that this year, so we missed her and everybody else that wasn't able to be there, but we had a great worship with them, and it's, again, just like it's neat when congregations come together, it's neat when English congregations come together with foreign congregations, and we worship God together, and it's just kind of a special time for that. All right, so day 4, we get into our house building. So we start them off at a children's home, kind of working on the heart a little bit, right? And then after worship on Sunday, we get up Monday morning with our hammers and our tools, and we go build a house. And I'm not going to go into all the details on all the houses we built, but I want to talk about this first house. This couple was Gladys and David, and they were in their mid-30s. And Gladys' story is when she was 5 years old, her parents died. And so she is this orphaned 5-year-old girl that really has nothing in the world. They were poor when they died. And so she survived by the goodness of family and friends that took her in and took care of her. Unfortunately, at the age of 11, she was violated and became pregnant from that and kept the child, and so she became a mother at the age of 12. And that child would grow up, and when you see the living conditions here, that child wanted something better for himself, and so he left the home to go out on his own, and Gladys feels a lot of guilt about that this child that she bore kind of left the family home and that kind of a thing. But she's now with David, and there's another son who is 16 years old who lives there. And this is a home that you see there on the right. Well, it's in both pictures. The one on the right is on the inside, but it's a family of 3, 2 adults in their 30s and a 16-year-old son, and they are living in a 6-foot by 8-foot cardboard structure. There was no tin, it was cardboard and a couple pieces of wood, and it's just kind of pieced together with a tarp. You can see there on the bottom or on the left side there, a tarp that's thrown on the top of it, and when it leaks, they kind of move the tarp around or they throw another piece of tarp on. But that's a family of 3, essentially full-grown people living in a 6-foot by 8-foot cardboard shelter. And as Gladys got older, she wanted to be able to legally do something with that property. So she hired a lawyer. The lawyer said, "I will represent you if you give me some of the property." And so she had to give up part of her property, and so was left with an even smaller plot of land that legally she could do something with. And what she did with it is she let Torch, the group that we're with, build a house on it for her and her family. And so that's kind of her backstory. Really, really difficult past. Has been through a lot, and I can't speak from her perspective how she felt about it all, but they were really excited, and here's a group of people that are coming in the name of Christ who are going to change her life, and they're going to do it to God's glory. And so I would like to think it had a pretty powerful impact on her and her family. So this is that house. You can see her little house, the yellow and black structure in the back, and that's us kind of at the beginning of the build. You can also see from here what a beautiful country Honduras is. I mean, you talk about mountains, and there's rainforest and rivers and all that. There's a lot of poverty. It'll break your heart to be there and see the poverty, but the actual natural land that's there is beautiful. It's very, very impressive as you drive around. So you got like the best of nature, and you've got the worst of sort of society going on at the same time. So this is us working on the house. That's David there. We also give them not only a mattress to sleep on when we're done, but we give them a Sawyer water filter and a bucket and instructions. And so they're able to, from that point forward, have fresh water, which most of them don't have. Most of them are getting their water from rainwater runoff, or they go to the local pond or mud puddle or whatever, and they just make it work. So now they're going to have not just a house and a mattress, but fresh water. So that's pretty important. Some of our little ladies here working. And there's Tate, our youngest member, hammering away. So this particular house that I've just described was donated by Kelly and Harold, and it was neat seeing Kelly, if I may, interact with this woman a couple of times throughout the day. And I understand Kelly's late father, it was done in his honor, and he used to build houses, and so it was kind of neat for her to build this house in her father's honor to help out this family in a very difficult place. I know that her father was very much honored by that and what she did, so we want to thank them for their generosity here. On to the second house. This house build I was not on. It was down the road, but just as important, and it was another family that was in a kind of a difficult place. My understanding is they were living with, it was a couple and their 2 children living with the in-laws, and my understanding is that was kind of a difficult situation with some friction going on, and it was just becoming kind of not a good situation. And so they saved up their money and bought a very small plot of land, hoping that someday something would happen to allow to build on it. And again, God provided for this family through this mission team and through Torch. And so we were able to link up with them and build them a house. And they have a couple of little girls. I'm not going to get emotional here, but these little girls had been in a rough situation in a pretty rundown place with a whole bunch of people living under one structure. And then these girls, all of a sudden, these 2 young girls get their own house. And you talk about joy. I want you guys, hopefully this video will play, but well, there's one more picture. So the girl there in the middle with Layla, the little girl there, is one of the girls that lived there. And there's a video here in a second. It's going to show her and her sister and a neighborhood girl. Here's video here, but they are screaming and frolicking around while the house is being built. They're still working on the roof. They're still hammering. These little girls are as happy and as excited as I've ever seen little girls. And and I want you guys to think about that for a minute. They're living in extreme poverty, and they get a new house, right? And it's not a fancy house. It's 16 by 16, but for them, it is like the biggest day of their lives, and they're so excited about that. And I don't want to pick on our own countrymen at all, but you think about the typical American child who has so much wealth and food and clothing and shelter and all these great things and PlayStations and all the different gadgets that we give our young people, and a lot of them still aren't satisfied. And here's a couple of young girls that have nothing. I mean, they have almost no toys, no nothing, but they have a new little house that they can play in, and they are just as excited as you can possibly be. So I think there's a lesson in there, not just for our children, but for all of us about being thankful for what we have and finding joy in what God gives us, even if it's not a lot or as much as maybe we would like to have. So I want to thank the Casella family for this home that these girls were just playing in. They made this home possible, and it was an honor to build it for them. So that was house 1 and 2 on day 4. Day 5 is kind of our day to go touring. And part of our goal here is we want our missionaries to become familiar with other mission efforts that are going on in the country. And so we hit 3 or 4 different mission areas. The first one's R1T1, Reach One, Teach One. This is a program that was founded by Dalton Hines, who is our full-time missionary on the ground. He's the guy in yellow there. And his work is to minister to the young men, the teenage boys of Honduras, and he teaches them carpentry and plumbing and horticulture. This past year they built a tilapia pond, and they're going to start, they're now growing and going to be selling tilapia, and aquaponics, I think is what it's called. They're growing plants out of the water that comes out of this pond. And the idea is you want to teach these young Honduran men how to learn a trade and how to support themselves. Because when they can support themselves, a couple of things happen. One is they provide for their family, which is a good thing for society, and they're not getting involved in crime and drugs to provide for their family, which is what a lot of them do. And then the second thing is when you have a job and you can provide for your family and you're stable, you don't need to go cross the border, right, into the United States of America. And we know what a crisis we have at our border. And so what I love about R1T1 is they are addressing this problem at the root level, which is teaching these young men a skill, and that's what Dalton is focused on. And so that's him pictured there. And to the left there, that's Lori Connell. Her program that we stopped by and visited and did a little shopping at is, what's it called? Mi Esperanza, thank you. Mi Esperanza, which is My Hope. And she has a similar effort to Dalton, except she's focused on the young women, the ladies, young and old, but she's teaching them different skills, how to make jewelry and how to do computers and how to do hairdressing and all that, and other skills. And so they bring them in for this program, they run them through it, they graduate them, and then they can go and support their family. And they also have an on-site daycare to where the women can leave their children while they're getting training. And so Lori and Dalton are basically attacking the problem. One's focused on men, one's focused on women, but trying to get at some of the root causes of the dysfunction in the society. And so we visit both of them. We also went to Baxter Institute, which is a Church of Christ affiliated preaching school in Tegucigalpa, downtown Tegus, and we got a really good tour there, learned about their mission, and met some of their students. And one of the things that was interesting is this Baxter Institute produces more Church of Christ preachers than all of our Christian colleges in the United States combined. And they have those graduates go out across the Americas. They have them in North America, Central America, South America. I think they said every country except two have at least one preacher that graduated from Baxter. And so they are pumping out gospel preachers and on a large scale and changing a lot of lives. And we got to, like I said, talk to some of the students and learn more about their mission. So that was a nice stop. We then went to Hospital Escuela. This is the largest hospital in Central America. And we got to mask up and go across the different wards there and visit with the children. And I just want to mention there on the bottom right, Tate. Tate's 11 years old. He's been a Christian, I think we can still say less than a year, and he's at the largest hospital in Central America praying over sick children. Now, you talk about getting a jump start on your ministry in life. That was an encouragement to me. When I was 11, I was just trying not to stain my clothes or whatever, like popsicle juice and stuff. But here's a guy that is on a mission trip, and he's praying for these children. That's just a testament to his family, but also to him and his boldness. We talked about boldness earlier and fearlessness, and that's a young man who's fearless for God, and he's off to a really good start in his mission work, as well as the others on our team. But I wanted to mention that. So we walked around this hospital. I did a little research this afternoon, and in 2013, this hospital was designed to do 7,000 births per year. That's what they were set up for. And that year they did 22,000 births that year. So they're set up for 7,000. They do 22,000, which is 60 births a day. 60 births at one hospital. And that they have since added on to the hospital, but they've also added on to the births. And they are now up to 90 births a day at this hospital. It's so crazy there with the just in the birthing ward that when a woman gives birth, she has 6 hours to leave, up to 6 hours. They will pay for her taxi home, and they will basically take her out to the taxi. They'll put her and her 6 hour or less newborn in the taxi, and they send them home. And they got to do that because they're doing 90 a day. Okay, so it's just an incredible, the production there, I guess you could say. But we walked around, we prayed with the children, we gave them toys, and just had a really good visit. Then we went to the Jesus statue that night, they call it, and we had a great singing devotional there at the steps of the statue. It's a really beautiful park that we walked around and spent some time there. So day 6, we move on to the medical clinic and the food distribution. The medical clinic was made possible in part from Russell from the Maryville Church of Christ, and also Barry and Nancy from Eastside. They also helped out with sponsoring the medical clinic, and then we had a couple other people helping out with the food distribution. So again, people from different congregations coming together to make all of these things that we're showing you possible. So the night before, we counted pills and put them in the little baggies and labeled them, and then the next day it was time for the clinic. So we split up our team into a couple of groups. One group was back at the mission house building food bags, and we built 200 food bags with enough food in each bag, about a 25-pound bag of food to feed a family of 4 for a month. And so we built those food bags, and this is the end result of that. And Kyle and Beth and also Donna helped to make this possible, so we want to thank them. And there's Tate at the end of the food bag build. Those bags went out to the Santa Ana Church of Christ on our campus there, to the Los Pinos Church of Christ that we visited the second Sunday. They got a bunch of bags. We took some more out to the Lincoln community of indigenous people, and then we brought the rest of them to the clinic to pass out to our doctor there. She has an elderly patient ministry of poor elderly people, and so some of those food bags went to her for that ministry. So 4 different recipients of the 200 bags that we built. So this is us in the Lincoln community. These people have no electricity. They're very sweet, they're very loving, but they don't have very much, and so it's neat to be able to just go and you know, you don't have to know Spanish. If you can say "En nombre de Cristo," in the name of Christ, you know, here's some food for you. And so we're able to show the love of God to these people in a very real way. Walking around, and like everything, you want to interact with the children and the adults, and just spend time with them, get to know them a little bit. And there's some people that were there. The one young lady from last year was there. She loved us last year. She was so excited to see us again this year. And so it's just great. You build relationships each year, and you can kind of add to those. Shout out to the Alcoa Burger King. I was about a week before our trip, I was in the Alcoa Burger King, and she asked if I wanted. I was the only one in the car getting Burger King, and she asked if I wanted a crown. What do they call it? A Burger King crown. And I said that'd be great. I said, is there any chance I could get like 40 of them? Thinking she would say no, there's only one per customer. And the lady at the Alcoa Burger King drive-thru gave me 40 crowns. I was so excited. I just wanted to crawl across the car there and hug her, you know. So I took the 40 crowns to Honduras. That's me in the bottom right passing out the crowns. And we sized them up for the children's heads, and they just thought that was the greatest thing in the world to have a crown. And so that was a lot of fun. Some more pictures here, and there's Greg there in the middle picking up children and tossing them to and fro, and they just couldn't get over that they had a giant among their midst. He's going to have to come back every year, because if he's not there, last year it was Kevin. Kevin wasn't able to come this year. Greg substituted for large man. One of those two has got to come back next year, or maybe both, or the kids will be very disappointed. So there's some playing going on and just some interaction. There is our Greg at the eye station hooking people up. There was a couple interns, Sydney there on the center bottom. And there's Dr. Eddie with his translator, Armando, seeing a patient. And this is Dr. Gale trying to get one of the patients to laugh, and I don't know if she was successful or not. And I think I could speak for Eddie. It's pretty cool, I think, from his perspective, because he's seeing patients from year to year, and there was one young lady last year that he was particularly interested in her condition. Her bones were fusing together, and it was just a really sad situation where she was falling. And anyway, he was able to see her again this year and talk to her and administer to her. And I don't know that she's going to get a lot better, I would say, but she was doing relatively well considering her situation. So that was really neat to see. And some more interaction here. We had pharmacists, we had an eyeglass station, we had triage, we had people outside playing, just a lot of moving parts there. And then we had the Daughters of the King, so some people had donated dresses and makeup and shoes and stuff for the young ladies. And so when you got done with your medical thing, your children could go outside, and these girls got all decked up. And why that is especially neat is in Honduran society, women are not respected. They are looked down upon. They are second-class citizens, and that's pretty much at every age level. And so for us to come in and sort of single out the young ladies, and we single out the young men too with soccer games and stuff, football games they call it. But for those young ladies to be loved on like that, and to have a new dress, a new pair of shoes, whatever, and at the children's home, we wash their hair and wash their feet and just love on them. And it's showing them that they value, that they matter, that just because you're a woman doesn't mean God loves you any less or we love you any less. And so we were very much trying to send a powerful message to them, that they are loved regardless of what the men in their lives tell them or how they're treated. They are loved, and so we tried to do that. So day 7, we decided to spend on our campus. That campus is growing. They're building they're in the process of building a new building that has a lot of work that needed to be done, and there's projects all over the campus. And typically a team comes in and they want to go out and build houses, out in the community, or give out food. That's the fun stuff, or go to an orphanage. But the actual compound we're on needed a lot of work, and so I think we came up with 14 or 15 different tasks that needed to be done, and we spent the day just splitting up, and people were doing all kind of painting and building and putting in doors and whatever was needed. And so we basically spent the day on campus, and just a lot of hard work in a lot of different areas. And then that night we had a meal for the community. We had gone to a restaurant and they way over ordered. They had all these platters, like 7 or 8 platters of food, and we probably could have gotten by with like 3. And so we had all this leftover meat that we mixed in with the rice and beans, and we had this big meal for the second consecutive year for the local church there and the community. And we got to serve them and all that. And there's Jerry feeding a young little lady, and Jerry's like a rock star. He's my hero. That guy does everything. He builds houses and fixes doors and feeds little children, and he was just amazing. So this is kind of an interesting thing. So Greg came up to me and he says, I think we should do the hippo song. I keep calling it the Hungry Hippo song. It's just the hippo song. And I was like, Greg, I don't know about the hippo song. Like, you're talking about doing it in Spanish. And he's like, yeah, we ought to do the hippo song in Spanish. And I said, I've been doing this for a long time. That's a bad idea. And he said, no. I've gotten with Erica, and she has sent me the lyrics, and I think she even sent a video singing it. So Greg was able to see the lyrics in Spanish and practice it. He's like, Steve, we got to do this. And I was very leery. So we get up there in front, and they put the words up on the screen, but they didn't put any breaks. All the sentences ran together. So it's just like this blob of words in Spanish, and Greg's looking at me like, we are so hosed. Like, this is going to be a problem. And I was like, we got to do it now. The words are on the screen, so just kind of launch into it. And we did have Cisco, our interpreter, singing loudly. And so we did the hippo song, verse 1, and the Hondurans were not really into it. They were not really participating. And so I stopped the song, and I had them announce, had it translated. I said, anyone not singing the next verse, we're going to have you come up in front and do solos. And so the next verse, I wish we had video of this, but the next verse, that entire audience was singing the hippo song in Spanish, and we have these 4-foot-tall women that are doing the motions, And I thought, this is like one of the greatest moments on a mission trip, is the hippo song in Spanish with the Honduran women and others doing the parts and everything. So that was really cool. So then we gave them a message. I got to speak to them, and this was interesting because I had a little 15, 20-minute sermon that I gave them, and it had I shared the plan of salvation and everything. And Cisco, our crazy little interpreter there, he was interpreting my sermon. And then at the end, I was just saying, the end of the sermon, come forward as we stand and sing. And then he launches into another 10 minutes of talking. And he is fired up about something. And I don't know what he's saying. So I'm just sitting back watching this little guy preach the word. And I'm like, amen, what he said, And he's going on and on for 10 more minutes. And to this day, I don't know really what he said. But we had 9 people come forward, 5 to be restored and 4 to be baptized. And so whatever he said, it must have hit home. And so we have a video here of one of the ladies. Again, 4 baptisms. This is one of the ladies. And it's really sweet watching them. The entire congregation gathers around the water. They surround this woman, and they just get all excited for her. And so that was kind of a special moment to be able to share that with the congregation. And, we try to do a lot of good things in Honduras, but the most important thing is when you see somebody added to the church. And so that was a really cool moment for them and for our team to be a part of that. All right, so let me pick up the pace here, getting close to the end. So day 8, we did house builds 3 and 4. This is house build 3. And I would say on these house builds, there's jobs for everybody. There's jobs for everybody. If you can swing a hammer, that's great. If you can sweep, if you can watch the backpacks, play with the kids, whatever you can do, we can use you. I want to thank the people that are listed there for coming together. So if you want to donate a house for Honduras, you don't have to do it alone. You can get together with other people, other individuals, other couples, and pool your resources, and that's what happened on this house. These 2 houses here on this day, it started raining heavily about noon and rained hard for the last 2 hours, and so that was pretty interesting, swinging hammers and stuff in pouring down rain, but we did it. And then this was house build 4 right next door. The house that had been there was 100% tin. It was a tin can house, and they said it was over 100 degrees inside, plus the kitchen, the stove was inside, and a family of, I think, 5 or 6 all crammed in there in this tinder box of just humidity and heat. And so we tore all that down and built them a home. There's some action photos. And then at the end, we had Eddie lead a prayer for the family. I don't know if you noticed there, but he still has his earplugs in, so I don't know if he heard his own prayer. But they seemed to appreciate it, and they had an interpreter. So, it had just been pouring down rain, and this family got a new house, and just a really cool moment to be able to pray with them. And this particular house was donated by the Eastside Church of Christ. So a shout out to the congregation here for doing that. This is Dalton, our missionary that lives there full time with his family, wife, 3 children, 1 on the way. And they have come across this brick building machine, and it creates bricks. You put dirt or mud or whatever in there, and it out pops bricks. And this was the first brick ever produced by that machine. They still have to work on the formula, but the long-term vision here is to perfect that formula, and potentially down the road, maybe not next year, but eventually we may build these houses Lego style with these bricks that come out of this machine. Would probably last longer and be maybe a little bit cheaper, and so that's kind of on the horizon a little bit. Day 9, our special needs orphanage. This is always a special day. These are adult special needs people, and they'll just tear your heart away. The girl there in the middle, when she saw me, she ran up to me and she walked me around the compound, and then she immediately dumped me for the next person. And over the next hour and a half, she walked pretty much everybody in our team around the compound, and she's just full of joy, and it's a really cool time. So we spent some time with them, feeding them, playing with them, walking around with them. There was a high school group that was there, which we hadn't expected, but we got to spend some time with the high school group and learn about them, and they got to learn about us. They're bilingual, so they could ask us questions, and so that was that was really cool. And by the end of the day, we had a new Tennessee Volunteer fan. That's probably the most important thing that happened here. And so really a good time. And everybody did great on the team, just interacted. Somebody brought, I don't know who brought this, but somebody brought a parachute. And so this parachute was busted out with a beach ball. Those kids love that parachute. I don't know who did that, but that was like the greatest thing ever. Those kids were just laughing, and we were wheeling them under the parachute as it's flopping up and down, and the ball's flying all around, and they just thought that was the most amazing thing. So that, we got to keep doing that now because they're going to be expecting it. So bring a parachute next year. There's Debbie in the middle talking to some of those high school students, and it's fun on the compound there just to make the laps and talk to the people. They have a picture there in their dining facility of the Last Supper, but it's Jesus in the middle, and everybody around him at the Last Supper is in a wheelchair. And that's just, it's got to resonate for those kids when they see that picture and they see Jesus and they see themselves in that picture. Day 10 was Sunday again. We worshiped this time at Los Pinos, which is a congregation that was established by Torch Mission, some of our predecessors years ago, and actually built their building. And we arrived there, we brought them bags of food and worshiped with them. Greg got up and led several songs in English, and then we sang some songs in Spanish, and it was just a really good time. And then during the lesson, of course, we didn't really understand what was being said, but we would go out two at a time to the Bible classes and pass out some things to them and encourage the kids and give them some toys and candy and that kind of thing. So it was just a really sweet time. This is our group in front of the Church of Christ there at Los Pinos. Just wanted to mention, if you go on one of these trips, we have 2 devos per day. So it is an environment that is very spiritually uplifting. And what's neat about it for me is on these trips this year and last year, we've had several men do their first devotionals ever. In fact, Tate this year did his first ever devotional. Not only does he pray for children at the largest hospital in Central America, but he's doing his first Devo. Armando from the church in Florida led singing for the first time. And last year we had several kind of, you know, it gives a guy a chance to teach or lead singing in an environment that's smaller, and that is a good way for their spiritual growth and that kind of a thing. And there's at the amphitheater our group. And then just a few final pictures here. That's Janet and the gang getting the rotisserie chicken at the top center and loading up. We're always loading something up. We're either loading up food bags or we're loading luggage or whatever it is, but there's always an assembly line of something being loaded on that bus or offloaded. Miss Donna got in a bouncy castle, and I don't know that that's wise. I don't know if that breaks any rules, but she was bouncing around that castle like a crazy woman, and I just sat back and said, hey, we leave tomorrow, whatever she wants to do. But she was great, had a great attitude. There is Janet there with Norma, who used to be Normita, this girl that she's known since she was 4 years old, and they have maintained that relationship through the years. Very sweet. We do have fun on these trips. We go out occasionally to eat. We go to ice cream places. This is Greg and Caitlin up at the Jesus statue with the city of Tegus lit up at night behind them. A few more pictures there. A tour of the pharmacy at the local clinic. We got a couple of German shepherds that patrol the grounds and protect us while we're there, so that's kind of nice. And this is just more interaction with people in the Hondurans there. So the picture there to the right is our team with Cisco getting ready to kind of wrap up our week. And there we are. And I want to thank the Hines family, the adult Hineses, and their son Dalton and his wife Jen and their children. The couple on the right there, they live there year-round. His dad and stepmom come in for the summer to help them with all these teams that are coming in. There's a team that's arriving tomorrow with 99 people on it, so this is a big operation, a lot of people, but they were just super to work with. And then we come back here to Matthew 25, and I want to kind of end up here. Matthew 25, it says, starting in 37, then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly, I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. And so what we remind our missionaries of is everything that we're doing, whether it's food, whether it's just laughing with a child, encouraging a child, feeding a child, teaching a child or an adult, or building a house for them, whatever it is that we do, we are doing it for Christ, okay? We are doing it in the name of Christ, and we're essentially doing it for Christ. And so our challenge as we left there, our challenge going there is we need to be passionate. We need to be people with passion for mission work and passion for evangelism. We need to have souls that are on fire. And so I think a question that I would have you kind of think about tonight as application here is what sets your soul on fire? What gets you fired up in life? I hope it is church work in some form. I hope it's evangelism in some form. However that plays out in your life, I hope, we had a preacher here the other day that was talking about the only reason God hasn't come back yet is because he wants more souls to be saved. The only reason Jesus hasn't returned is he wants us saving people, teaching them, and that needs to be our passion. That needs to be what sets our soul on fire. So what sets your soul on fire tonight? What are you passionate about? Is it college football? Is it making a lot of money? Is it, I don't know what it might be, but man, we better have our souls on fire for Jesus, because that's the only reason he still has us here, is to teach people and try to save souls while there is still time. And so what sets your soul on fire tonight? That's something that you can think about. And then our last slide here, I just want to make an appeal. If there's anybody here tonight that would like to go on a mission trip next year to Honduras, it'll be the late May, early June time frame. If you can go, that's great. Like I said, we had ages 11 to older than 11. And in the past, we've had people in their 80s go because there's so many different jobs, even cleaning up around the campus or cooking food or whatever. So there's plenty of jobs. If you're not able to go but you want to sponsor a house, we can help you with that. Excuse me. Or if you want to go in with several friends or family members or different families and sponsor a house, that would be awesome. Or you can sponsor a medical clinic or the food distribution that you saw. All of that takes money. And so I presented these slides about a month ago, I guess, to the Rockwood congregation, which I'd never been to Rockwood before, but they were the ones that sponsored Izzy this year. And got done with the presentation, and a guy come up to me. I'd never seen him before in my life. This elderly man. He said, "I want to build a house next year. He said, "Well, $3,000 would be enough." And I said, "That'd be plenty." Walked out of there with, he's going to send Josh a check for $3,000. And so just like that. But we need people that are touched by the mission and touched by the message and are willing to step up and either sponsor a house or a clinic or food distribution. And if that's something that you're interested in, you can let me know. We already have him and another couple from Eastside that have stepped up. So we already have 2 houses pledged for next year, but we need to add on to that and keep it going. And so again, I want to thank, again, the team. You guys were awesome. I want to thank all of the congregations, not just Eastside, but Greenback and Seymour and Holly Hills, the other congregations that were represented. It is a team effort. We got to have people that are willing to take the light, but it takes a whole host of people willing to send the light with prayers and with financial support and all the other ways that you all helped us. And so thank you on behalf of the team from the bottom of my heart for making it possible for us to go. And we give God all the glory and honor for that. And we hope, if Christ doesn't return by next summer, that we're able to do it again. And we'd love to have you be a part of that. There could be somebody here tonight that is in some way touched by this message, and maybe you feel like your soul hasn't been on fire for the Lord. Maybe you don't feel like you have that passion for ministry as you would like to have, and so that's something that we're happy to talk to you about. We're happy to pray with you about. If you need to be restored in any way, or there possibly could be somebody here tonight who would like to become a Christian, like those 4 women that were added to the church while we were there. There may be somebody that would like to become a Christian or would like to study more about that. And if we can help you with that tonight, or you have any other needs, please come forward while together we stand and sing.